Shalom, everyone. This is Malaya from Jerusalem, and I have a very special report for you. Every man and woman and child needs to be aware of what is happening right now. I have said it many times. This is a very, very special time in history. No one can say exactly what is going to happen, but I can say this: there are lots and lots of events that are scheduled to take place. It started last year with the four blood moons, and things are escalating to a point where September seems to be the date that everybody is talking about. Okay, the powers that be have known about this date for a long time. They're making their plans. There's all kind of maneuvers, military maneuvers that are going on. I am not bringing you this report to cause any kind of fear or alarm, but this is just to educate you so that you will be able to at least know what is happening, and try to at least be a little prepared. Okay? Um, I am not going to try to determine what these events mean in every case. Some things should be very plain to see, and for others, you can get together and determine for yourself, what it is that you believe. Okay, I am just providing the information. I'm going to be reading from this. I had all of this printed out because it's a lot of information. Okay, I'm not going to be giving a whole lot of personal opinion in this. These are facts. Okay, you decide. Okay, now, um, again, these are events that have started last year, starting with the blood moons, and they seem to be culminating in September. I'm going to dive right on in. You need to try to get a pen and paper, jot some of this down, and do your own research. Okay, now, there is a growing sentiment among eschatologists or Bible scholars, and even some secular groups, that the world is in for a significant and potentially catastrophic change in or around September 23rd, 2015. The September 2015 prediction has gained traction in recent years thanks in part to the blood moon tetrad, which is set to complete its cycle September 28, 2015. In addition, there have been other startling indications that many individuals and groups in positions of power have been well aware of for quite some time. Okay, the exact specifics are not fully known, but there appears to be a consensus that multiple world changing events, natural, man made, and spiritual, will take place in rapid succession, both before and during and after the September 23rd date. For many Christians and Jews and people of other faith, there is speculation that God's wrath and judgment will begin to pour out onto this planet, ushering in many of the end time prophecies foretold in Daniel and in Revelations and other prophetic books of the Bible. Now, here are just a few notable scenarios, okay, or bullet points that are going to hint to something that's going to happen on or around September 23rd, 2015. The first one, September 23rd, 2015, is the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur. Every seventh year is a sabbatical year, a Shemitah, and every seventh sabbatical or 49-year ends a cycle of time. The last cycle occurred during Israel's Six-Day War, remarkably the last time the world experienced a blood moon tetrad. It was during that period, if one counts exactly 49 or 360 day prophetic years, which equals 17,640 days from the date of Jerusalem's recapture by Israel, we arrive at September 23rd, 2015. Remarkable. On May 13, 2014, French Foreign Minister Laurent Fabius announced that we were on the edge of an abyss and we had 500 days to avoid climate chaos. Now, 500 days exactly from the day that he made that speech is September 23rd, 2015. On multiple occasions, Hollywood films have alluded to the September 23rd date. Now, examples include the number 23. This was a movie that came out in 2007. And most recently, Tomorrowland. This came out in 2015. YouTuber Renee M goes into much more detail about Hollywood has hidden this September 23rd date in plain sight. Okay? Before his death in 1727, it is alleged that Sir Isaac Newton, the famous physicist and devout follower of Christ, concealed a prophetic script in one of his journals. These writings contained important information related to Israel and end-time events. The manuscripts are detailed in the book Newton's Riddle. Interestingly enough, Newton's calculations point to something occurring on September 23rd, 2015. The much talked about Jade Helm 15 military training exercise, which many suspect to be practice drills for martial law in the United States, begin on July 15, 2015 and conclude on September 15, 2015. Just 1 week prior to September 23rd. Rabbi Jonathan Cahn, best-selling author of The Harbinger and the Mystery of the Shemitah, has uncovered a shocking connection between a new Shemitah and past financial collapses of the U.S. economy. This includes the stock market collapse of 2001, shortly after 9/11, and the financial collapse in 2008. The current Shemitah, or 7-year cycle, ends on September 13th, 2015, the day of Rosh Hashanah, Feast of Trumpets. Okay, now, that is really, really something that you're going to have to look into, because from what I have learned, the Shemitah is also directly connected to the towers. There is a mystery of the towers that goes along with that. And the Twin Towers, or the towers in New York that fell, these towers are symbolically indicators of a nation's strength and power. And generally, the nation that has the highest towers, like the Tower of Babel that reached into heaven, the ones that have the highest towers are the ones that are generally economically the strongest, militarily the strongest, and that nation is the supreme nation, the one that has the highest tower. And when they fell, it was on a Shemitah year. They were built on a Shemitah year. There is a direct correlation between the Shemitah and the towers. And this goes on and on and on throughout history. It's amazing. You have to really look into it. I didn't include anything on the tower. I'm just throwing that in there, but it's something that you really, really need to look at. Okay, now I'm going on. Pope Francis, who some suspect to be the false prophet of Revelations, will be meeting with Barack Obama on September 23rd, 2015. Many are suspecting this meeting will coincide with catastrophic events taking place, allowing these and other leaders to usher in a new world order and help control the widespread chaos that will ensue from a natural or man-made disaster. For the past 7 years, keep that number in mind, there have been bizarre and eerie trumpet sounds coming from the sky. All in places all over the world, these noises could indicate a warning from the heavenly realm that something is about to take place. The following is an excerpt from BibleTools.org, which addresses the biblical significance of trumpets and trumpet sounds. The trumpet is a symbol of considerable consequence in the Old and New Testaments. In general, it can signify an alarm of war, a call to assemble, or a command to march. See Numbers 10, verses 1 through 10. The fourth annual holy day is the Feast of Trumpets, a memorial of blowing of trumpets, a holy convocation, Leviticus 23 and 24. Okay, so it's going on to talk about the when Jericho fell. It was after 7 consecutive days of trumpet blowing, or trumpet sounding. That's very, very interesting. All of this is just too much to be coincidental. So there are lots of other things that I could go into, but I'm just going over some of these things with you. Now, I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about some of the things that I just mentioned to you, so you get a more than just a cursory understanding, but you're still going to have to do your own research. The Shemitah. What is the Shemitah? The Shemitah year is also called a sabbatical year, okay? And it is the seventh year of the seventh year agricultural cycle mandated by the Torah for the land of Israel and still observed in contemporary Judaism. Rabbi Jonathan Cahn, author of the best-selling book The Mystery of the Shemitah, states, "I will state a warning which I have before." Cahn told hundreds of people gathered at the Prophecy of the News Conference in Orlando, Florida this weekend, whether it comes in this time parameter of the Shemitah or the year following or not, I believe a great shaking is going to come to this land and to the world that will involve the collapsing of the American economy and the removal of its blessings and prosperity. Whether it begins with the economic realm or not, I believe is going to be bigger than the economic realm, and it may have the effect of famine or cutting off infrastructure for a time. The shaking doesn't have to take place in the Shemitah year, but I believe we need to be ready. Now, I looked at a couple of his videos, and he went on to say that nations that are not upholding the laws, these particular laws, and we see blatant disregard for the laws of the Holy One of Israel, blatant disregard all over the world. And when they do not keep the Shemitah, at the end of the Shemitah cycle, there's always some kind of judgment, collapse, or shaking that follows. Okay, because when you don't keep that, you don't get the blessings. The ones that keep it get the blessings. The nations that keep it get the blessings. And so, according to him, it falls it covers a huge realm of things. Okay, economic, agricultural, political. Wars have started and ended on these Shemitah years. It is phenomenal the amount of information that is coming out concerning the Shemitah now. So you have to look into all of that. Okay, it's just amazing. Now, um, the evidence gets even more convincing because the pattern of 7-year cycles can actually be traced back to the financial collapse that led to the Great Depression of 1930s. Interestingly, these 7-year cycles concur with the Shemitah years of the Jewish calendar, what I just said. Reportedly, billionaire investors like Warren Buffett, John Paulson, George Soros, and Carl Icahn are unloading large shares of stocks in companies such as Johnson & Johnson, Procter & Gamble, and Kraft Foods. ZeroHedge.com, the popular financial blog, recently disclosed the not-so-quiet preparations these billionaires are making for an impending market correction. It's interesting to call it a correction, not judgment. But, well, that's a financial, they're using financial terms. In the past, such corrections have resulted in economic crisis and recession. Others have speculated on a possible dollar collapse and various potential scenarios related to the financial markets in the U.S. Sweetheart, you have to be quiet, okay? Okay. Now, I'm going into the Jubilee. All right. The Jubilee, the Sabbath year. The Lord said to Moses at Mount Sinai, "Speak to the Israelites and say to them, when you enter the land I'm going to give you, the land itself must observe a Shabbat to the Lord. For 6 years sow your fields, and for 6 years prune your vineyards and gather their crops. But in the 7th year the land is to have a year of Sabbath rest, a Shabbat to the Lord. Do not sow your fields or prune your vineyards. Do not reap what grows of itself or harvest the grapes of your untended vines. The land is to have a year of rest. Whatever the land yields during the Sabbath year will be food for you, for yourself, your male and female servants, and the hired worker and temporary resident who lives among you, as well as for your livestock and the wild animals in your land. Whatever the land produces may be eaten." Now, that's the Sabbath year, okay? Now, the year of Jubilee. Count off 7 Shabbat years, 7 times 7 years. so that the 7 Shabbat years amount to a period of 49 years. Then have the trumpet sounded everywhere on the 10th day of the 7th month, on the day of atonement, or sound the trumpet throughout your land. Consecrate the 50th year and proclaim liberty throughout the land to all its inhabitants. It shall be a jubilee for you. Each of you is to return to your family property and to your own clan. The 50th year shall be a jubilee for you. Do not sow and do not reap what grows of itself, or harvest the untended vines. Okay, I'm going to stop right here so I can go check on my granddaughter. Okay, now the Lord is very, very specific about the rules that He has set down, the laws that He has set down for the Jubilee. During my time in the community with the African Hebrew Israelites of Jerusalem, we did observe the Jubilee, and that was a time when debts were forgiven, and uh, it, we it, uh, it was referred to as the year of the release. And those that were in marriages that suffered from irreconcilable differences, they were also a decree was read to end those particular marriages. Okay, so debts and obligations and things of that sort could be terminated, and you could be released from those vows. Okay, so now I'm going to go into the four blood moons. Now, the teaching of the four blood moons is uh, is this. The teaching of the four blood moons has recently captivated the attention of the religious world. This teaching states that when four consecutive blood moons fall on Jewish feast days, a major event affecting the Jewish people would occur in close proximity to that time. This phenomena of four consecutive blood moons coinciding with Jewish feast days has only occurred 10 times since 1 AD and only 3 times since 1492 AD. The 3 times since 1492 are as follows: the Tetrad of 1493, 1494, Tetrad of 1449, 1950, Tetrad of 1967, 1968. Major events affecting the Jewish people have occurred in close proximity to all three of these tetrads. Now, I did a video called the historical connection to the Hebrew Israelites in the four blood moons. And basically, that was offering insight into our connection to the four blood moons, because we are very closely connected to the state of Israel as well. And a lot of people look past that because they have the power to define. However, we have to do our own research and bring these facts to light. So research is paramount. Now, they're going into now the first tetrad. Okay, I'm just going to give you a little bit of background on the first one, which was in 1493, 1494. Okay, the Spanish Inquisition took place in 1492, just before the tetrad of 1493, 1494. In 1492, King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella of Spain gave the Jewish population a mere 4 months to convert to Catholicism or leave the country. It is estimated that between 165,000 to 400,000 Jews fled the country at this time. As many as 50,000 decided to stay, converting to Roman Catholicism. The Spanish Inquisition sought to punish them who had converted to Christianity but were not really sincere in their conversions. Torture was used to elicit confessions from these false converts. After confessing, many of them were then burned at the stake. Now, it goes on in this particular article to question, was Christopher Columbus Jewish? Many historians now believe that Christopher Columbus was secretly Jewish. They believe his voyage to the West in 1492 was his way of escaping the Spanish Inquisition of that year, and therefore resulted in his discovery of America. In Simon Wiesenthal's book, Sails of Hope, he argues that Columbus's voyage was motivated by a desire to find a safe haven for the Jews in light of their expulsion from Spain. Now, I just want to interject here that generally speaking, with the four blood moons, there is it's sort of like a tragedy to triumph kind of thing that goes on with it. You know, there is great calamity and then there's the victory. So, you know, being a student of history, you can see the correlation between, okay, they were expelled, but then they came and they discovered America. So there's a lot to see and learn from here. Okay, now the studies of Carol Delaney of Stanford University led her to believe that Columbus was a deeply religious man whose purpose was to sail to Asia to obtain gold in order to finance a crusade to take back Jerusalem and rebuild the Jews' holy temple. Columbus's voyage was not, as is commonly believed, funded by the deep pockets of Queen Isabella, but rather by two Jews who converted to Catholicism to avoid death. Louis de Santiago and Gabriel Sanchez advanced an entrance-free loan of 17,000 ducats from their own, or ducats, I don't know, from their own pockets to help pay for the voyage. Another prominent Jew, Don Isaac Arabano, who was a rabbi and Jewish statesman, also donated towards the voyage of Christopher Columbus. Is it any surprise that the United States has the largest Jewish population on earth, standing at 6.6 million? Israel presently has 6.1 million Jews living within her borders. That's amazing. Okay, so it goes on to talk about the second one, which is the nation of Israel, reborn on May 14th, 1948, just before the Tetrad of 1949-1950. After the destruction of Jerusalem by the Romans in 70 AD, Jews were driven into exile. For the next 1,878 years, the Jewish people were sifted through the nations of the earth, yet they retained their identity. After Hitler's horrible Holocaust during World War II, the Jews were finally granted a homeland by the nations of the world. On May 14, 1948, the modern state of Israel was born. Now, of course, this is his story. You know, it does not talk about the black Hebrew Israelites and what they were going through at that time. But I'm giving you information, and it is up to us to do our own research. Now, the city of Jerusalem was reunited during the Tetrad of 1967-1968. Okay, that was the last one. Now, God said many times in the Old Testament that he would place his name in Jerusalem during their 2,000 years of exile. The Jewish people turned their faces towards Jerusalem 3 times each day, praying for the restoration of Jerusalem and the rebuilding of their temple. On June 7, 1967, the Jordanians launched an attack in West Jerusalem. Israel counterattacked, driving Jordan out of East Jerusalem, out of Judea Samaria, and back into its own land across the Jordan River. Jerusalem was undivided and under Jewish control for the first time since the destruction of Jerusalem by the Romans in 70 AD. That was now at that time, that was a huge victory for the state of Israel, the war and then the subsequent victory. Now, what was happening with the Hebrew Israelites at that time, and I've said in past videos, was there was a lot of civil unrest going on in the states, and there was the assassination of Martin Luther King. There was a contingent of 500 Christian pastors that were supposed to come up to Israel at that time, but they never made it because of the assassination of Martin Luther King. So that was a time of great tribulation. But at the same time during that year, the Hebrew Israelites quietly slipped into Israel. And we've been here ever since, as much as they've tried to put us out. So I feel as though our fate is directly tied with the Jews. I don't know and understand how God will work his plan, but I do know that all of these things are not coincidence. They're quite remarkable, and they're things that we really need to be studying and looking into. Now, this is one that I wanted to definitely go into. This is Sir Isaac Newton, and his September 23rd end times prophecy. Sir Isaac Newton, who lived some 300 years ago, 1642 to 1727, was one of the greatest geniuses in all history, with perhaps the highest IQ of anyone in history. He's called the father of modern science and the father of the Industrial Revolution. He discovered many scientific laws, and God chose Isaac Newton to impart many of his deepest secrets and riddles. There is strong evidence that God gave Newton the most mysterious secret and riddle of all, the timing and events of the end of the age. Newton was a devout believer in Christ and Bible scholar, fluent in ancient languages, and who translated directly from the Hebrew and Greek. He was unusually drawn to the prophet Daniel, which he began studying at the age of 12, and he continued until he died at the age of 85. In fact, the Columbia History of the World, a secular history book, remarks, at the end of his days, he spent more time studying and writing about the prophecies in the book of Daniel than he did in charting the heavens. Apparently, God himself put in Newton's heart this burning desire to study Daniel, then gave him the key to the timing of Christ's return. Could this be the final profound secret the Lord revealed to this godly genius near the end of his life? A secret accidentally discovered in the Library of Congress. Okay, and it was republished just in the last few years, a secret so simple that most have missed it. Now it goes on to talk about how Newton does his calculation and how modern day scholars and eschatologists do their calculations, but he came up with the same date of the September 23rd. Okay, so it goes on to talk about that, but I'm not gonna read all of that. Now I'm going to go to something that I found to be very, very captivating, interesting. I don't know if you all heard about it or not, but this is about the Star of Bethlehem. Now, the Star of Bethlehem is what we used to hear about as a child. You know, the star that shone so bright. You know, in the nativity scenes, you all see the three wise men that are going to the manger, to witness the birth of Christ, and they came from afar. And according to the story, they brought gifts and all of this. So it was this star that shone so bright that they refer to as the Star of Bethlehem. Bethlehem was the city where Jesus was supposed to have been born. Okay, so that star has recently reappeared, and that was June 30th. And you can go online and you can look at the amazing time-lapse videos that people are posting, and it's just beautiful. And it's supposed to be actually not one star, but it's a convergence of two stars that appear to be one star because they cross each other at a specific time in space, and they create that illusion of one bright star. And this is something that hasn't happened in, I don't know how long, eons probably, and it's happened again, and that it was prophesied to happen during the advent of Christ. So this is very good news. And whether you believe Christ is a man or an energy or whatever you believe, these things are taking place. That's up to you yourself to decide again. Okay, so now I'm going straight to the Pope. Okay, now Pope Francis. Any of you that might have more information, because I know there's tons of information out there, and I haven't done all the research in the world, but I would love to know why his name Francis, the name Francis is spelled with a small f. Okay, that's just odd to me. But anyway, you can leave a link to a video that explains that, or a link to an article or whatever. I'd love to know more about that. But anyway, I'm going to start off with a brief article that's talking about Pope Francis. And it says Philadelphia planners who are in Rome ahead of the leadership delegation are letting us know that if the Pope comes to Philadelphia next year for the World Meeting of Families, the event could be the largest event ever hosted in the city and possibly the continent. That is something. Some are telling me that it might be the largest global event that will hit North America, said Father Bill Donovan, who hails from Havertown, Delaware County. Um, that's amazing. Because there are millions and millions of Catholics, and that's not all. Listen to this. Pope Francis will address a joint meeting of Congress on September 24th. House Speaker John Boehner said Thursday, a first for the leader of the world's Roman Catholics. While it was known that Francis had been invited to address America's lawmakers, Boehner's announcement was the first word that Francis was coming and that a date was set. We're humbled that the Holy Father has accepted our invitation and certainly look forward to receiving his message on behalf of the American people, said Boehner, a Catholic who has asked Francis to come to Capitol Hill. Now, Boehner was happy to receive Netanyahu also. So this Boehner is a busy man. But anyway, he's coming. And there's so many videos out there saying that this Pope is the Antichrist. I could not say one way or the other if I don't have enough information or knowledge to make that statement. But there's certainly enough other people out there that are saying it. And during his planned visit to the United States, Francis also is expected to visit the White House and speak at the United Nations. Now, that's unprecedented. That is unprecedented. This is a religious figure that is speaking to the president. He's going to Congress. He's going to the United Nations. He's going everywhere. And this is a religious figure. But this is the thing that I found most interesting of that during his travels, this is the most interesting thing, and I had to just throw this in. Okay, now this is from Rome, already regarded by many as the Pope of Mercy. Francis offered another motive for the title with the surprise announcement on Friday of an extraordinary year of mercy. Now he's declaring this an extraordinary year of mercy, saying he wants to make it evident that the church's mission is as a witness of compassion. Let us not forget, this is the words of the Pope. Let us not forget that God forgives and God forgives always, Francis said, repeating the words he used during the first Angelus as Pope on March 17, 2013. Let us never tire of asking for forgiveness. Having already described his entire papacy as kairos, Kairos, of mercy, meaning a privileged moment in God's plan of salvation, Francis said the time is ripe for that message. Okay, so he is saying that he is trying to get mercy. Interesting. I am convinced that the whole church, which has much need to receive mercy, because we are sinners, will find in this Jubilee the joy to rediscover and render fruitful the mercy of God, with which we are all called to give consolation to every man and woman of our time, the Pope said. Francis made the announcement in St. Peter's Basilica while celebrating a penitential service on Friday, the second anniversary of his pontificate. Traditionally, every 25 years, the Pope proclaims a holy year which features special celebrations and pilgrimages, strong calls for conversion and repentance, and the offer of special opportunities to experience God's grace through the sacraments, especially confession. Extraordinary holy years like the Holy Year of Mercy are less frequent, but offer the same opportunities for spiritual growth. That's amazing. Now, I've already explained to you that the theme that is resonating throughout these events is the return of the Messiah. There's a theme of judgment, and we see here that the Pope is going everywhere. He's going to the president. He's going all over. Now he is one of the most powerful men in the world, and he's saying that we need to be asking for mercy. So we all know that the Catholic Church uh, is in great need of mercy, as are we all. But it's like he knows what time it is, and that's really really amazing. Um, I want to close out with something that is I'm saying this especially to my brothers and sisters before I go. Sir Isaac Newton said one last thing, and I want to remind each and every Hebrew Israelite of what he said. Okay? About the time of the end, a body of men will be raised up who will turn their attention to the prophecies and insist upon their literal interpretation in the midst of much clamor and opposition. Okay, now, if that is not an indication of these days and times that we're living in, then I don't know what is. Um, it was over a year ago, just about over a year ago, that I decided the Holy Spirit put in me a mission. He put it in my mind and my heart to have a something unprecedented, never done before. And I could have tried to do it at another time, but the Holy Spirit had me to host a conference to call for Hebrew Israelites internationally to come up to the Holy Land and to visit and to sit and to sit at the conference table. Now, I've done past videos and I said there'll never be any peace until Yah, or the Holy One of Israel, is seated at the conference table. All of these wars and rumors of war and all of these other things that you see that are taking place right now, it should be very plain to see what time it is. But the Creator put it in my heart to do it this year and before September 23rd. I have no idea what the relevance or significance of September 23rd is. I don't know if it's a false flag event, meaning something that they have actually created, but I do know that whatever they are devising, whatever plan they are devising, it could not have it 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 it, it definitely is something that they couldn't have started thousands of years ago. These prophecies are ancient prophecies, and they can have all the false flag events that they want, but these prophecies are ancient prophecies, so they couldn't have just come up with it. These are things that they may be using to distract you, maybe not. I don't know if it's Nibiru, the comet that's coming in. I have no idea. No one knows the hour, but I will say this, that the conference is in August, and it is the first time in over 2,000 years that such an event will be held. We have in this year proclaimed the New Jerusalem, and there have been some that have come and witnessed that. My brothers and sisters, you really need to know and understand that you have to put your fears aside, and you have to put all your other reasoning aside, economic reasoning and fear for your life and this and that. We need to turn our faces back to the east. We need to turn our faces back to the God of Israel. We need to do more than just pay lip service. Uh, we need to prove ourselves worthy. That's not saying live, but you can at least sit at the conference table and put your 2 cents in, offer your opinion, or bring your $2 to put towards a worthy cause. There's just nothing else I can say to you. You know, everybody else is coming, but I don't see you. Your seat is there at the table. You know, now whether it is you are coming to represent your camp, whether you coming to represent your family, whether you coming to represent your nation or yourself, represent. Be there. Be counted. So this is your father's table. So, you know, I've done all of this work and there's much more work to do. So I hope that this has helped you in some way. You need to continue to do the work. You need to, it's like when your father calls you, you need to hear that trumpet. You need to come, and you need to at least make pilgrimage, at least. I can't, like I said, I'm not saying to come live. These are decisions that you have to make for yourself, but his sheep will hear his voice. So I love you all with a perfect love. And so it's time to do a little studying. And for those of you with a willing heart, go ahead on. It's not too late to um, reserve a ticket. And I'll see you at the conference. You all take care. Peace out.